Hello everyone. In the previous episode, we told you how Yosef was put in prison because Potiphar's wife lied. Yosef sat in prison for 12 years, and on the night of Rosh Hashanah, he lifted his eyes to Hashem and said with all his heart and in tears, "Master of the universe, get me out of this place, save me." Suddenly an angel came and began to teach Yosef 70 languages in one night. Wow, how can someone learn 70 languages in one night? That night, Pharaoh went to sleep, and behold, he dreamed a dream. And in the dream, he sees 7 fat and healthy cows coming up from the river and eating grass. After them, 7 thin and gaunt cows come up and eat the fat cows. Pharaoh woke up in shock and went back to sleep. And then he dreams another dream, in which he sees a stalk of wheat sprouting 7 grains. Wow, usually stalks sprout 2 grains, and here there are 7. But immediately after, thin and shriveled stalks grew and swallowed the fat ones. And they had only 1 grain. Pharaoh woke up again in shock and called the magicians of Egypt to interpret the dream for him. None of them interpreted the dream correctly. Pharaoh was really troubled. Suddenly, the chief cupbearer approached and told him that in the prison, there was a young Hebrew slave who interpreted his and the chief baker's dreams. And just as he interpreted, so it happened. Pharaoh said, "Bring him immediately." They immediately brought Yosef, cut his hair, shaved him, bathed him, and brought him to Pharaoh. Pharaoh said, "I heard about you, that you know how to interpret dreams, and I want you to interpret my dreams too." Yosef replied to Pharaoh, "I don't know how to interpret, but whatever Hashem tells me, that is what I'll tell you." Pharaoh told Yosef the dreams, and Yosef began to interpret. The 7 fat cows represent the 7 years of great abundance in Egypt, but after them will come 7 years of famine, which explains the thin cows eating the fat ones. And the reason you dreamed a similar dream twice is because Hashem is hastening to fulfill the dream. Pharaoh was impressed by Yosef's wisdom and said, "That's exactly the solution I dreamed of, and now you've reminded me of it." Pharaoh appointed Yosef over Egypt and said, "You will rule, but I will be above you." The king's ministers asked, "How can you let a slave be king over us?" He doesn't know 70 languages, and this was one of the conditions. Pharaoh tested Yosef and saw that he knew 1 more language than him. It was Lashon HaKodesh, the holy tongue. Pharaoh decreed and said to Yosef, "Without you, no Egyptian can do anything." Yosef rode on the chariot, and the daughters of Egypt ran to see Yosef and threw coins at him to make him lift his head. But Yosef was holy and did not lift his head, until he saw a note on the floor that said, "Whoever marries this woman will belong to the family of Yaakov." The note was thrown by Asnat, the daughter of Dinah. Yosef married Asnat, and in the meantime he began building storehouses and storing grain in them. The Egyptians laughed at him and said, "Why are you storing grain? Worms will come and eat it." He didn't listen to them and continued. Yosef had 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. The 7 years of great abundance passed, and suddenly Egypt ran out of grain. They came to Yosef and asked for food, and Yosef said to them, "Go circumcise yourselves, only then I'll give you." The Egyptians ran to Pharaoh and told him about it. Pharaoh said, "Do whatever he tells you." He decreed that the grain would rot, and it did. He can also decree that we will die. Meanwhile, the famine was felt in the world, even by Yosef's brothers. Yaakov sent the brothers to Egypt to bring back food, but he kept Binyamin with him because he was the only son left from Rachel. The brothers set out on their journey. Yosef knew that the brothers were supposed to arrive, and he told Manasseh to follow them. Then Yosef sent 70 soldiers to bring the brothers to him. As soon as they arrived, they bowed down to Yosef. They, of course, didn't recognize him because he had a beard. Meanwhile, Yosef told them they were spies, and they were sent to prison. The brothers tried to explain that they weren't spies, but had only come to get a little food for their father and their younger brother, and to look for their brother who worked in Egypt. Yosef said to them, "Go and bring your younger brother to me." The brothers refused because it could endanger Yaakov. In the end, they agreed to leave Shimon in prison until they brought Binyamin, and so it was. They set out on their journey. When they needed to sleep, Levi opened the bag and found the money they were supposed to pay with for the food. They were shocked, but they set it aside to pay Yosef on their return. When they got home, Yaakov asked, "Where is Shimon?" The brothers told over what happened and that Yosef ordered them to bring Binyamin. Yaakov was horrified and asked, "Why did you tell him you have a younger brother?" Yehuda added and said, "Father, if we don't take Binyamin, we won't be able to go down to Egypt to get food, because the man warned us about it. Finally, Yehuda took responsibility for Binyamin, and they set out on their journey. When they arrived in Egypt, they were taken to Yosef's house. As soon as Yosef saw his brother Binyamin, he went aside and began to cry. When he returned, he sat with them to eat, and when they finished, they went to sleep. In the morning, Yosef released them to go home, but then something happened. Yosef's special goblet was hidden in Binyamin's bag without the brothers knowing about it. They set out on their journey, but then Yosef sent his servants to bring them back. As soon as they arrived, Yosef was angry and said, "Why did you steal my goblet?" Yehuda, who was responsible for Binyamin, said, "Whoever is found with the goblet will be your servant forever." They immediately began searching the older brothers, and finally the goblet was found in Binyamin's bag. The brothers tore their clothes. Yehuda asked Yosef to release Binyamin in exchange for him becoming Yosef's servant, and Binyamin would return to his father. But Yosef didn't agree. What happened next? We'll tell you in the next episode.